Welcome today as we kickstart our Founders and Alumni's Homecoming. Founders Day and Alumni's Homecoming. And we appreciate history for what it teaches. It shows us to learn from the past, to experience the present, and look forward with hope to the future, because that is what history is all about. And hoping that as we experience our Founders Day, the beginnings of NEGST, as we celebrate our alumni, we can create a better future for AIU and live in the present and enjoy all that it is, as it were. So my name again is Calvin Nyamrera. I'll be your co-host for the afternoon. And to kick us off, interesting part of my story in AIU was in that one theology class. I think we were with Danson. Danson is right here. Though I found him like he was already transiting to the next program. But I remember our lecturer by then, Dr. Bassi, told us, no, it was Dr. Morad, early morning, and he was such a loving lecturer. He will bring us cakes or pies for all students as long as you were in the class by 7 a.m. And I was coming from all the other side of Nairobi in Komarok at the edge of Kayole and trying to get here back then by 7 a.m. And I can't imagine I will get that early to come and have cake and coffee and to obviously enjoy a 7 a.m. lecture. But the most interesting part was one time he asked us, so what books have you been reading? And that was a clear gap for me on the kind of theological material I had been interacting with in my neighborhood. I would hear the names being mentioned in the class, and I thought I was lost, which indeed was true, because the books I was mentioning, first of all, were not theological, secondly, were almost heretical, and thirdly, some of those authors probably, anyway, let me not make you not be sure, do we really have the right MC then? Instead of saying, hey, he's going to say some heresy. But guys, that was just to explain my short struggle, but to appreciate how AIU has truly refined me. I look at my catalog currently, and I am rich in resources that help me to continue lead, mentor, and pastor. Let's give a round of applause for AIU and for that.
Good afternoon. Indeed, it's a great pleasure and honor for us to have you here with us this afternoon. Thank you for accepting to come and spend this day with us. We know that it's precious to you, but yet you have set aside time to come and join with us. I do know that in here we have different ones of you. Our alumni tend to be very influential in society and very senior. So all of you here, it's very hard to acknowledge some and leave out others, because you find a founder of a bilingual Christian university here from Beni in the name of Dr. Kasali. Dr. Kasali, do you want to just stand up and... yes, thank you. Thank you. When we arrived here, we means a few of us, myself, Carol, my wife, Jackie, Bishop Carita, I don't know whether they are here or not. Did they come? Did those people come? I can see Jackie here. And Dr. Kasali was the principal of this school, but he was taking sabbatical because the work of this place he had been carrying it, and he had not given it to the Lord to carry. That's what he told me this morning. He was the one carrying it. So he got burnout, and he took some sabbatical for 1 year. Nice to see you, sir. Thank you very much for honoring us. He traveled all the way from Atlanta to be here with us this morning. I don't know whether there are other heads of institutions like this, like universities, who are here today. Our alumni who head schools of higher learning that are here today? Okay, he's the only one. But we have about 10 others who are presidents of institutions of higher learning who came through this institution, and we are grateful to God. Bishop Isaac, I have not seen you for many years. Yes, we were here in school with you, sir. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. Isaac Kibutu was a deputy bishop at CITAM for several years, and we are grateful to God. So we honor you and acknowledge each one of you who is here today. But just let me try. Do we have Nairobi Baptist here? Yes, okay. Okay, alumni in Nairobi Baptist, either working or congregants. President Fraliston Omsula, he was a student leader here. Thank you. Nice meeting you here today. We have Sitam Buruburu. Sitam Buruburu. Oh, yes, at the same desk. Okay, you are seated with your president. Okay, thank you very much. Any of the other Sitams that are here? Sitam is Christ is the Answer Ministries. It's what you knew as Nairobi Pentecostal Church. Nice seeing you, friends. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Restore University. I didn't see. Okay. Joy Home and Schooling. Okay. It's given a list here. International Theological Seminary. Eh? Oh, you are here. Then stand up. This is Priscilla Adoyo. Yes, she was our faculty here. And then she was taken away. Since she was taken away, we haven't seen her much. But it looks like somebody is taking good care of you. We thank God for you. Thank you, Priscilla. Now today, as we come to celebrate our 40th congregation of graduates, this Friday, we do so with great honor and great joy. That which began as a small seed, then with 3 or 4 students sitting in class here, and their first teacher of church history is here, Professor Watson Omlokoli. Today, we will be graduating this week our 40th class of 445 students. We celebrate. I know that some of you, where you come from, you graduate at 10,000, others graduate 3,000, 1,000. As we are so happy that we are graduating 445. And the good thing is that these men and women we graduate, these are going to be men and women of influence in society. You will find them in the marketplace trailblazing. You will find them in churches as bishops and heads of institutions. You will find them as faculty and presidents and rectors of institutions of higher learning. We thank you that you chose to come to AIU. And as you graduate, those of you who are graduating this week, know that we are proud of you. You are made up of great things. and a great future is ahead of you. And so for us, we celebrate this 40th congregation of our students. And so we chose that as we do this, we meet here and have a reflection. And in the last 1 month, we have had a reflection on our beginnings. We have heard from Professor Samuel Ngewa of the different seasons that this school has had to go through since its founding. We have heard from our Chancellor here, Chancellor Sir, and we thank you for that lecture on Biancato. A great history and legacy of faith planted by one man who had a vision and desired to dream. We celebrate Biancato. This morning, we have heard about Tony Wilmot. Tony Wilmot was our first principal. And AEA, the Association of Evangelicals in Africa and Madagascar, asked Tony Wilmot to be the leader of the project. This was being called as a project. And the institution called Nairobi Evangelical Graduate School of Theology. And as Professor Omlokoli told us this morning, is perhaps the man we ought to celebrate because he had faith that this will happen. And he received 3 students. And he was told, you are the principal, and he believed it. Many of you will have said, principal? 3 students? Me, I am not going. Me, I want something big. But he planted this project here. And today we are who we are because Tony Wilmot had faith and walked the dream that he had had from AEA at that time. Today, we would like to hear a bit more. We want to hear about the General Secretary who succeeded Biancato, one man called Tokunboh Adeyemo. His legacy is one that will be celebrated for many years because taking over, and he only hears this was part of the dream, he had faith that this project needed to go on. And the school began under his tutelage as the General Secretary and the President of AEA. And we want to celebrate the life and the works of Tokunboh Adeyemo. And we want to celebrate together with his legacy that one institution in this room is seeking to advance the Africa International University. We want to thank God for his work, and today we will sit and listen. We will sit and hear, and at the end of that, I would like us to sign, to signal a signing of an MOU with something that Tokunboh had begun just before he died, Center for Biblical Transformation. And Paul, thank you for being here today. We appreciate you, and we are glad that you made time to be here. But also we will do another thing. Friends of Tokunboh Adeyemo have asked us to launch a scholarship in his honor. And we will launch a scholarship that targets students at graduate level, 5 to 7 students, admitted every year to study at master's and PhD level in the School of Theology or any other program that is related to theology that is offered here. And it's a full scholarship. Minus living expenses. The scholarship will pay for your tuition and pay for other fees that are required. And so your work will be to come and study. Isn't that a good thing? Yes. We want friends like those. I also want my friends to do something like that. Yes, yes. We want to celebrate the life of Tokunboh Adeyemo. So to do this, to help us listen in, is our brother and friend and professor, James Nkansah. He has a difficult name, or Propong, or whatever, Pong Pong. But he has an easier name, which he doesn't like to use. He has a name called Kwame. Please, Prof, do come. Let's appreciate Professor. Let's appreciate Professor here.
Good afternoon. It's my honor to stand here today. I think the person I am today, I attribute it to the mentorship of Dr. Tokunboh Adeyemo. He has been a father to us. There were a bunch of young people who were going to church at Nairobi Pentecostal Church, Valley Road, and he mentored us. And we are what we are today because of the way he invested his life in us. And we are grateful to God that today we can remember him and the legacy that he has left for us to follow. So I won't spend my time. I will just read this quickly. And I have entitled this The Theological Contribution and Legacy of Dr. Tokunboh Adeyemo to Evangelical Christianity and Leadership Development in Africa. First, his background. Let me remove this one. I see better reading without it. Dr. Tokunboh Adeyemo was a Nigerian evangelical Christian theologian, a brilliant scholar, and a distinguished African leader whose life has inspired many people and continued to do so. He was born in Ibadan, Oyo State in western Nigeria, into a Muslim royal family on October 1, 1944. Dr. Adeyemo was the second child and the first son in a family of 8 children. He was reared as a devout Muslim, steadfastly adhering to the fundamental tenets of Islam. Initially trained as a teacher, he harbored aspirations of becoming a prominent politician with ambitions to ascend to the presidency of Nigeria by 1973. Wrapped in a materialistic worldview, Dr. Adeyemo lamented that he had been indoctrinated to believe that one's earthly material success is a foretaste of one's heavenly destiny. But that was not true, because in his life, he was so dissatisfied with life, and he didn't actually know what was going on. Dr. Adeyemo was not merely an educator, but also a community leader devoted to effecting meaningful changes in the lives of others. He served as a headmaster of a local school. His life underwent a transformative experience in 1966 at the age of 22, when he dedicated his life to Christ. This pivotal decision cost him his inheritance as a son and curtailed also his presidential ambitions. Instead, he nurtured a fervent zeal for Christian ministry. He enrolled at Ekwa Theological Seminary in Ibadan, Kwara State, Nigeria, where he obtained his Bachelor of Theology degree. His passion for knowledge and to learn more about God drove him to pursue a Master of Divinity and a Master of Theology degrees at Talbot School of Theology, Biola, in California in 1976. In 1977, he received his Doctor of Theology degree from Dallas Theological Seminary in Texas. Dr. Adeyemo remarked that although his time at Dallas Theological Seminary was brief, the academic challenges sharpened his theological thinking and reflection. He also obtained a Doctor of Philosophy in Theology degree from the University of Aberdeen, Scotland, in 1979. You can see that this is a man who was schooled. And no wonder he is an icon to many of us. Throughout his academic endeavors, Dr. Adeyemo maintained robust ties with the church community and continued his ministerial work. He was the resident pastor at the Church of the Open Door and taught at the California Los Angeles Bible Training School in California, which facilitated a harmonious balance between his academic and ecclesiastical duties. He was ordained a minister of the gospel by the Church of the Open Door in Los Angeles in October 1977. His conversion and academic pursuit prepared him and shaped his vision and mission in life. Dr. Adeyemo's vision and mission was to see the nations discipled for Christ, and his passion was for every Christian to make a difference in their generation. This vision and mission was made possible through God's divine sovereignty when 3 years after the death of Dr. Biancato in 1975, Dr. Adeyemo was elected as the acting general secretary of the Association of Evangelicals in Africa and Madagascar, AEAM, now AEA, during the General Assembly convened in Bouaké, Ivory Coast in 1977. In 1978, he relocated to Nairobi to assume the role of General Secretary at AEAM. Being the General Secretary gave him the opportunity to work on his life vision and ambition to see the nations discipled for Christ. His vision aligned with Dr. Biancato's vision to provide quality higher theological training on the continent of Africa. This made it easier for Dr. Adeyemo to ensure that Dr. Cato's vision for a vibrant evangelical Christianity in Africa, where the churches are led by qualified ministers and through solid biblical preaching, teaching, and discipling Christians to live faithfully for Christ. His contribution and legacy as second African General Secretary of AEA. Dr. Adeyemo's legacy is seen in his commitment to advance evangelical Christianity. As AEA General Secretary, he ensured that evangelical churches in Africa come together to foster unity and to create a platform for the preaching of the gospel. He advocated for a holistic gospel that integrates evangelism and social action to address the spiritual and material needs of people. This was a bold step at a time when the social gospel of the liberal theological wing was sweeping across Africa and evangelism was undermined. He believed that the gospel must address the spiritual, physical, social, psychological, and economic well-being of individuals. This comprehensive model of the church's mission is grounded in his understanding of biblical Christianity and the African communal worldview, where the well-being of the community is paramount. As AEA General Secretary, he was successful in expanding the existing national evangelical alliances in Africa from 16 to 32 national alliances. He traveled widely, attending conferences both locally and internationally, preaching in churches, encouraging and empowering them to prioritize the preaching and discipling of Christians as core activities of the church, while addressing the social, economic, educational, and political issues prevailing on the continent. He strongly held the view that the church must be salt and light to society, and that our witness must be borne not only in words, but by our lives. He embodied the gospel in his life. He was a true follower of Jesus who sought to honor him in his life. One of Dr. Cato's vision was to set up an evangelical journal that will address the multifaceted issues facing Christians in Africa, as well as the social-political issues affecting the lives of many Africans. As General Secretary of AEA, Dr. Adeyemo set up various commissions to address the multifaceted socio-political and economic challenges, issues to do with refugees, relief, women and children issues confronting Africa. AEA implemented a publication program that encompassed biblical studies, theological subjects, missionary endeavors, and explorations of African culture and worldview that address these issues from a sound biblical and contextual perspectives. These publications were meant to be resources for the National Evangelical Alliance in African countries to use for teaching and discipling of the members to be concerned citizens who care about the welfare of their nations. I think that journal was called Transformation, if I remember very well. And I think the GS told us, our chancellor, that they are trying to find out where this journal is. We will find it. We will look for it. And maybe continue with it. These publications have significantly influenced evangelical theological discourse on the continent and also contributed to the refinement of the theological frameworks within evangelical churches and national evangelical alliances on the continent. In 2002, Dr. Adeyemo's term as General Secretary ended, making him the longest serving General Secretary in AEA's history. His leadership spanned over 2 decades, fostering stability within the evangelical movement in Africa and significantly advanced evangelical Christianity across the continent. Under his stewardship, AEA emerged as a formidable voice for evangelical Christianity, adeptly addressing social, theological, and political issues from both biblical and African perspectives. His passion for high-quality theological education. Like Dr. Cato Dr. Adeyemo was committed to see theological institutions provide high-quality education in Africa. He believed African scholars can make seminal contribution to theological and biblical scholarship for the church in Africa and for the global church. Dr. Adeyemo was an astute theologian and biblical scholar who was committed to high-quality theological education. As a trained theologian and biblical scholar himself, he gave serious attention to AEA theological institutions. BEST, which is in Central African Republic, and NEGST in Kenya. He saw the work of theological educators as disciple makers, whose task and calling is to shape and form minds to think theologically and biblically about life, but also cultivate the heart, hands, and feet with skills that can provide solutions to the many problems that confront the church and African societies. He wanted to see theological education and training that is excellent in content, rigorous in skill development, and practical in addressing human problems. He wanted an integrated theological education that is committed to orthodoxy and also orthopraxy. As a theologian and a biblical scholar, Dr. Adeyemo was committed to faithful biblical interpretation and sound theological teaching. He wanted to see NEGST produce qualified biblical and theological scholars for both the church and theological institutions to ensure that the faith that is transmitted to the next generation is not corrupted. This commitment is reflected in the role he played in theological education in Africa and his commitment to write theological books and Bible commentaries to address the issues and challenges faced in Africa. His seminal theological contribution is seen in his commitment and service to NEGST. He played a critical role in giving leadership where needed. Dr. Adeyemo served faithfully on the NEGST governing board. They used to be called Board of Governors. From 1983 to 2002, when he became the university first chancellor. He served as the university chancellor from 2002 to 2010. Dr. Adeyemo also served as acting principal of NEGST from 1985 to 1986, and as a lecturer teaching apologetics, Islam, and biblical courses, notwithstanding his extensive responsibilities and travel commitments as the General Secretary of the AEA. He was a great teacher who modeled his teaching after the master teacher, Jesus. He raised the standard of theological education through ACTIA, and he was closely connected with the two theological institutions of AEA and with AEA Theological Commission, whose chairperson served on the governing council to ensure NEGST keep its vision and mission. His contribution to theological and biblical scholarship. Similar to his predecessor, Dr. Biancato, who was apprehensive about the emerging liberalism and universal theology prevalent in liberal Christianity, Dr. Adeyemo addressed a critical doctrine of salvation in the context of traditional religion at a time when various unbiblical interpretations of this fundamental doctrine were prevalent. Interestingly enough, this book was his, I think it was his MDiv thesis at Biola University. Concern about the ascendance of contextual theologies in Africa and the critiques from the African scholars regarding missionary enterprise, Dr. Adeyemo reaffirmed the exclusive nature of Christianity. His seminar was Salvation in African Traditional Religion, was published as a crucial juncture to tackle these pressing issues. This was vital due to the authentic evangelical voice he provided to ensure that the integrity of the gospel remained intact, while he upheld the distinctiveness of salvation through Christ. As an evangelical, he offered a discerning analysis of pre-Christian religiosity by navigating between the two positions of rejection and revitalization. He pioneered new ways of developing an authentic evangelical theology that is grounded in African context, but also faithful to the teachings of Scripture. His theological writing and Bible commentaries have shaped and continue to shape evangelical, theological, and biblical scholarship on the continent. Dr. Adeyemo was a prolific writer. His theological works and writing reflect a biblical hermeneutic that encourages Africans to see themselves within the biblical. Am I okay? Thank you. Dr. Adeyemo was a prolific writer. His theological works and writing reflect a biblical hermeneutic that encourages Africans to see themselves within the biblical narratives, comprehending what the Bible articulates about Africa and its people, and affirming the Bible's relevance in addressing African issues and concerns. One of Dr. Adeyemo's seminal contributions to theological and biblical scholarship is the Africa Bible Commentary, which is normally called ABC. As the general editor of ABC, he led 70 African scholars to write a commentary on the entire Bible and many theological articles addressing key African issues from African Christian perspectives. He wrote the commentaries on Judges, Daniel, 2 Peter, and Jude. He also wrote several articles in the ABC, including conflict management, discipleship, dreams, ideas of salvation and other religions, leadership, religious pluralism, and worship and praise. Most of these articles he wrote were central to his passion and vision to make disciples of Christ of all nations. This commentary is a significant theological and biblical resource that is poised to have a profound impact on African Christianity. This remarkable piece of work has been translated into French. It has also been translated into 4 African languages: Swahili, Amharic, Hausa, and Madagascar. A revised edition of the ABC is currently in progress and is slated for publication in October 2025. Actually, it will be out in October 2025. You will have those copies. This volume also provides a comprehensive theological resource addressing a myriad of African issues such as family dynamics, ecclesiastical matters, poverty, evil, corruption, and community from biblical viewpoints. His other theological works focus on ecclesiology and Christology. His other notable publications include The Making of the Servant of God, published 1997, Deliver Us from Evil, and Uneasy Frontier of Christian Mission, edited 2002, Is Africa Cursed, 2009, and Africa, Enigma and Leadership Solutions, also 2009. He was writing a systematic theology book from an African perspective. He did not complete it because of death. I hope this work will be completed as a sequel to the Africa Bible Commentary. Dr. Adeyemo also published several articles on African theology and the intersection of Christianity and culture. His works challenge many to rethink the approach to faith in the African context, emphasizing that culture should enhance rather than hinder spiritual growth. His ability to articulate complex theological concepts in a relatable manner made his teachings accessible to both young and old alike. Dr. Adeyemo's theological contribution are instrumental in establishing a model for contextual theology that deftly avoids the pitfalls of syncretism. While affirming that all theology is contextual, he posits that theology in Africa must be firmly rooted in the scriptures and in the African context, addressing the experiences and challenges faced by the continent. He persistently applied Christian teaching to issues pertaining to family, socio-political dynamics, economic realities, human rights, poverty, corruption, and the development of African communities. Through his theological writings, he endeavored to inspire and challenge Christians to engage in the governance and management of their nations actively. Strategic discipleship development. Dr. Adeyemo had an unswerving commitment to strategic disciple based on sound biblical preaching and teaching programs in the church. As an evangelical theologian, he was committed to the faithful interpretation of the Word of God, to read it, study it, teach it, and live his message out practically in his life. He was a student of the Word. Dr. Adeyemo was a churchman and deeply spiritual. He was seen in his devotional life and his practice of reading through the scriptures and scriptures every year after his conversion to Christ. As a Pentecostal, he had a consistent prayer and Bible study times where he went, I think it was on Thursdays. Every Thursday, Dr. Adeyemo would go to the mountain and spend the whole day there, praying and seeking the face of God about the work that he is doing. And he did that throughout his life. Dr. Adeyemo committed to the life of the church, and his passion for teaching and discipleship opened the doors for him to engage in ministry in the local church, providing leadership role as a teacher, an elder, pastor, and mentor. One of his legacy at Nairobi Pentecostal Church was the leadership he provided for the Varsity and Career Christian Fellowship, which was called VCCF, where he discipled and mentored many young university students, young professionals, and Christian workers. His deep understanding of the Word of God and his commitment to teach God's Word and live it out in his life inspired many young Christians in their faith journey. Although he traveled frequently, he was so devoted to nurture Christians to grow in their faith and become faithful followers of Jesus in the marketplace. As a Christian who was deeply committed to a consistent prayer life, he instituted a monthly all-night prayer meeting at the church, which is now a consistent feature of all Sitan assemblies. His mentees have become faithful ministers of the gospel, and they continue to serve God in Kenya and other countries around the world. As an African Christian who comprehends the African worldview and recognizes the influence of the spiritual forces that contend against us, Dr. Adeyemo all the time urged Christians to depend on the empowering presence of God's Spirit to combat the powers of darkness that seek to enslave and ensnare us. Dr. Adeyemo often spoke at conferences and seminars across the continent, sharing insights drawn from the deep understanding of Scripture and his life experiences. His legacy of integrity and commitment to teaching inspired many to pursue theological education and engage in lifelong learning. As he reflected on his journey, Dr. Adeyemo always attributed his success to God's grace and the steadfast support of his congregation and mentees, who continue to honor his memory by embodying the principles he instilled in them. Through his strategic mentorship and his commitment to scholarship, many of his mentees have become prominent educators and theologians who are giving academic leadership to premier Christian universities across Africa. Others are giving leadership in Christian international organizations across Africa. There are a good number of church pastors and bishops who are his mentees. Some of the prominent theologians Dr. Adeyemo mentored are leading different theological institutions across Africa. Some of us are here. Dr. Kasali has been acknowledged. We have Professor Kingsley Labi, who is in Ghana, running, actually now he is the Chancellor of Regent University of Science and Technology. Professor James Nkansah, myself who is here, Dr. John Gate, Professor Francis Manana, and many others. And then there are also those who are serving in the church, who include the newly Bishop of the Anglican Church in Garissa, Bishop Francis Omondi. And then Reverend Martin Mbandu, Bishop Kennedy Kimiwe, and also Bishop David Murithi, among others. These are young people Dr. Adeyemo discipled at the Nairobi Pentecostal Church, and we are all faithfully serving the Lord. Dr. Adeyemo's influence extended beyond the church walls. He was a beacon of hope in his community, often leading outreach programs that address social issues such as poverty, education, and healthcare. His contribution to leadership training and social transformation. Dr. Adeyemo had deep concern for strategic leadership development for socio-economic and political transformation of the continent of Africa. He provided exemplary leadership He was a man of integrity whose leadership profoundly influenced the church and the theological underpinnings of the evangelical faith in Africa and globally. His remarkable wisdom, maturity, and profound understanding as a global Christian was instrumental for his success and leadership endeavors. Owing to his theological acumen, he served on numerous international Christian movements and organizational boards. Dr. Adeyemo held positions as the chairperson of the World Evangelical Alliance, vice chair of Open Doors International, now called African Services here. My first job when I left AIU, it was Dr. Adeyemo who looked for a job for me to work at Open Doors International. And so I worked for Open Doors for International for many years before I resigned to pursue my doctoral studies. That is how far he went to ensure that we were okay. But he also served on the Living Bible International, and he also served on the board of International Bible Society, and also Youth for Christ International. Additionally, he was a faculty member at the Advanced Leadership Training Program of the Hagar Institute from 1996 to 2006. That was a long time. Dr. Adeyemo identified the leadership crisis in Africa as a pivotal factor contributing to the continent's social, political, and economic challenges. He was resolute in addressing this dilemma by providing solutions to the leadership crisis. And so in 2003, when he retired as the General Secretary of AEA, he established the Center for Biblical Transformation Africa. To tackle the leadership void, he discerned throughout Africa during his extensive travels across the continent through motivational and mentoring strategy. Through the initiative of CBT, he envisioned a revitalized Africa, aspiring to change one mind at a time through the power of God's Spirit, where the Lordship of Christ is both supreme and evident, and where Christ's principles govern all phases of human life and endeavors, manifesting through godliness, goodness, prosperity, and human flourishing. Two pivotal scriptures shaped Dr. Adeyemo's life mission. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit. Zechariah 4:6. And also redeeming the time, for the days are evil. Ephesians 5:16. And those of us who were his mentors, this really pushed us. You know, we go to an online prayer meeting and you don't think Dr. Adeyemo is Dr. Adeyemo. A man running around, jumping and blasting in tongues, and you look at him and say, no, this scholar should not be doing this. We learned by his experience, his life. He proposed several constructive avenues for engaging society to foster transformation and promote human flourishing within our communities and nations. Through CBT, Dr. Adeyemo has profoundly influenced a generation of African Christian leaders, demonstrating an unwavering commitment to theological education and cultivation of future leaders capable of effectively addressing African challenges from a biblical theological perspective. Because of all the things he has done, Dr. Adeyemo has been recognized internationally for his contribution to education and to the preaching of the gospel. I just want to mention a few here. In recognition of his significant contribution to Christian higher education, scholarship and leadership, discipleship and missions, Dr. Adeyemo was bestowed with an honorary Doctor of Theology by Potchefstroom University for Christian Higher Education in South Africa in 1994. He was a man of many doctorates. I don't know how we'll come. Doctor. He garnered numerous accolades and commendations, including the Astounding Leadership in World Evangelization Award in 1984. He was also conferred by the Black Evangelistic Enterprise Incorporated in the USA and the Distinguished Leadership Award for his extraordinary service to education and religion. And also he was cited in the International Dictionary of Distinguished Leadership in 1986. He was prominently featured in Who is Who publications, and also such as the World Christian Encyclopedia in 1993, and Praying for the World's 365 Most Influential People in 1999. Dr. Adeyemo died in Nairobi on 17th March 2010, and he was buried in Ibadan, his native city. We have the privilege to attend his funeral in Ibadan. What lessons can we learn from the legacy of Dr. Adeyemo? What can we discern from this lecture on the legacy and contribution of Adeyemo as AIU moves forward to the next 40 years? I suggest we do the following to keep and pass on this legacy and contribution to the African evangelical Christianity. 40 years from now, we should be defending and promoting the evangelical unity and preaching the unchanging gospel of Jesus Christ. We should be passionate to see nations discipled for Christ, and that every Christian making a difference in their generation. We must be passionate to uphold the integrity of the gospel as our founding fathers did in their time. Where we are moving, we have to commit ourselves to uphold this gospel. And we want to pray that 40 years from now, Africa International University will be doing the same thing we are doing now. Passionate about training Christ-centered leaders and not self-centered leaders who will be seeking their own gain. We must protect the evangelical ethos of AIU and continue to train Christ-centered leaders whose engagement with the church and society will bring transformation and shalom to people. We must continue to develop African Christian scholars whose voice must be heard by the global church to enrich the theological and biblical discourse of the time. We must endeavor to blend and integrate evangelical orthodoxy with African contextual realities. Our theological education must be holistic to address both spiritual and socio-political and economic dimensions of life. We must also see our theological education as discipleship making, mentoring our students to be Christ followers, men and women who will reflect the character of God in all they do and say. Scholars who will bring God's mind to the issues that confront them so they can provide the solutions that have eternal value. We must ensure the academy is closely linked to the church and society to be able to produce students and leaders who are competent to use both their head and hands to address human problems. And finally, to encourage academic scholarship through research and writing from an evangelical perspective to address the many issues facing the church and the continent of Africa. Thank you very much.
Let's appreciate our Prof for such a profound reflection on the life of
in the green,
our key core
leafy
founders.
suburbs of
And
Karen,
my
Nairobi,
biggest takeaway is
stands
to
a
ask
quiet,
myself, as a current young contemporary Christian leader, what will they say of me? Because hearing what they're saying, you get amazed. And all that happened right here in Africa. There is no excuse. And I think the gap in theological writing and building scholarly materials, mostly for our African contemporary issues, cannot be ignored. And presently, if you're currently in Kenya, you know how that makes more sense, whether it is in matters politics, whether it matters the social challenges we're experiencing. And may such a legacy inspire us to step up and be the voices that our communities need in such a time as this.